chat's there for you to put questions in. Please put in that. I will be answering that whilst Bradie and Farley look after Bradie for the first bit and Farley hosts the evening. Please don't put questions in there. Thank you for muting. If you have a question that you would like to ask and do it directly, you can go to the reactions and do this and raise your hand. Look at that little emoji come up. So with all you being technical, I know you can all do that. So can anybody else put that? Leon, we'll have to do separate training for you. Look at that, Farley's done it. So you can either put your hand up the old style, or you can use the emoji to do it. And if you do, I'll draw Farley's attention and then you can answer or ask a question from there. Is that all right? So that's the three things. You're being recorded, so be appropriate. Stay on mute if you are not actually saying anything, so we don't hear the football in the background or other conversations. And questions in the chat, or we'll bring people into it later. Is that all right? I think that's all the rules for the moment. Rules,
yeah,
just makes it work. And you will see that we are being recorded. So I'll pass over to you, Farley, and I'll look after the chat for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining. As I said earlier, it's so lovely to see. I get so excited to see real people. So tonight is with Bradie. He's very kindly, he's a physio that's just started up, well, not just, it's been over a year now, isn't it, Bradie, in and around? So you might have seen 2 years. So it's working for directly privately with patients, but also through the NHS. So I'll let him, he has got a instruction, so I won't steal that from his presentation. But he's got a presentation to go through about injury prevention and common injuries and things to do. But also he's very kindly, he's going to stay on for the rest of the chat also if anyone's got any questions. So some people have already sent and posted questions, so that's brilliant, thank you. We'll go through them once he's finished. And then we've very kindly got some of the coaches with us tonight as well. So if you've got this is a great opportunity to, hopefully Bradie will no doubt start some common questions and common areas of concern for everybody. So it'll be really, really interesting to what comes out of that and for the coaches to answer as well. And with obviously the rules changing soon and everything looking a bit brighter and we can start sessions, it'll be really, really good if anyone's got some questions before we start proper training. I say that, and how many hours have we racked up this week? The leader board on Strava. So yeah, it'll be really good to see people at sessions as well. So I will hand over to Bradie now, and I've got the presentation, so we're going to do a proper Boris. Next slide, please. So yes, here I will lead with, I'll start sharing my screen, Bradie, and let you crack on.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Ben. Can everyone hear me? Maybe just a thumbs up. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm not on mute. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for everyone for your time. One of obviously my main reasons for doing this presentation, obviously the triathlon, hopefully season will all be free to start our training. And obviously being a TRISudbury member myself, I just thought it'd be very appropriate to just share some common injury prevention and common injuries for all the members, just to get yourself off to a good start. So I will, hopefully the presentation won't go on for any longer than 15-20 minutes. And as I say, I'm happy to answer any questions at the end if I can help any more. So my clinic is called PhysioMotive. I'm based within Zest Health and Fitness. So quick introduction to myself. So I've got quite a professional sporting background. Before I was a physio, I was a professional footballer, played at a few clubs, Ipswich Town as a schoolboy, quite local to here, obviously. Now, unfortunately got injured, spent that much time on the physio bed, I thought I may as well become one. I've been qualified since 2013 from Brunel University. And as Sarah said, I've worked in the NHS, and some of you may have seen me up in the NHS, up at the healthcare centre there. And 2 years ago, I thought I'd go off on myself and set up PhysioMotive. And again, I know some of you have already been in to see me. And I've also been a part of quite a few different sporting teams as well. I'm currently enrolled Essex University to studying more advanced physiotherapy stuff, just to gain a deeper understanding with some of the interesting stuff that's out there. And as I say, my PhysioMotive clinic, it's a sports injury clinic. I'm also trained in vertigo assessments and treatments. And also that's very new to the clinic this year is something called shockwave therapy, which I've just bought a machine for as well, which will be coming hopefully very soon. I've got a little slide on that within the presentation just to say a little bit more about what shockwave therapy is as well. And as I said, I'm based within Zest Health and Fitness. I also work at a private hospital where I do orthopedic surgery as well. So a bit of a mix of everything. And as people know, I do triathlons, golf and tennis as well. So that's me. So if we get the presentation started, if you kindly do the next slide, please, Sarah. So hopefully by the end of the session, you'll have a better understanding of some of the injury prevention strategies. And then if you do pick up an injury, just some very basic common injuries and their management. So again, if you, next slide, please, Sarah. So obviously we've all been in lockdown for up to a year now. Gyms have all been closed and we haven't been able to work out how we normally would. Some of us have maybe even become a bit of a couch potato, watching a lot of Netflix, etc. So with the kind of inactivity, it certainly has a bit of a negative effect on our bodies, and some of the most common ones are your muscles, tendons and ligaments will certainly be weaker and tighter because they're not used to that load that you usually put it through. If you've already been kind of getting out on your bike and doing a bit of running, that's great. But obviously, as you'll probably appreciate, you probably won't be race fit for any of your first triathlons that you do. Your coordination and balance won't be as sharp as what it once was, obviously, which is important to kind of obviously making sure that you're not going to roll your ankle or something, or you're doing the transitions pretty coordinated. And your cardiovascular fitness won't be as again, your endurance won't be as good as what it was pre-lockdown. And if you're like me, again, I've put on a little bit of body fat as well. So again, that's all going to be increased load throughout your musculoskeletal system. So putting all the joints and tendons, muscles, ligaments, all that a bit of a risk of injury. Next slide, please, Sarah. So the first bit of advice for injury prevention is pace yourself. Okay, it's going to take about 6 to 8 weeks of training appropriately to even start feeling the benefits of getting stronger tendons, stronger muscles, tighter ligaments, get better coordination and cardiovascular fitness. Now, if I can turn your attention to the graph there on the slide, we've got the capacity, which is kind of the load that you're putting yourself through, and then along the bottom you've got the time, and then across the middle you've got baseline there. So your first few sessions, you're definitely, once you put yourself under load, you're definitely going to be stressing the body obviously more than what it's used to. And then it's still going to take you a few days to recover after your first few sessions. And then your next couple of sessions after that, you'll be able to work out at probably a better intensity. You may go for a little bit longer. You may be able to swim a little bit harder, push a little bit harder down on the bike. And then again, you're going to have a bit of a dip as well as you recover. And each time that you do a bit of exercise, you may find that you're able to go just that little bit harder for a little bit longer. But again, that's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to kind of gradually get back together. And it's this kind of early phases where you're going to be at risk of injury if you push yourself too soon and too hard. So that's very basic information there, and I hope that's come across, you know, where you understand that. It's basically, in the nutshell, don't push yourself too hard too soon. Next slide, please, Sarah. And then the second a bit of advice is warm up, prepare your body to exercise. This could contain some static stretching, some dynamic stretching, and maybe some low intensity specific movements. Now, I know there was one of the questions about kind of static stretching. There's minimal research on stretching, but but it's more so, you know, if it makes you feel a little bit more flexible, then it's okay to do it. I'd probably say the most important one there is a bit of dynamic stretching. That basically just means moving your body through the range of movement that you'll be about to do. So for instance, an example of that is if you're about to go for a run, maybe do some heel raises, because that to get the calves engaged, because that's a really important muscle that we use to propel ourselves forward when you run. And then a low intensity specific movement could be just doing some squats. That activates pretty much everything in the lower limb, glutes, quads, hamstrings, you know, especially if you're going to be on your bike in that position, and obviously some running. And again, it's just very low. It's not a workout. It's just very basic movements just to get the body prepared for what you're about to do. A warm-up can last 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be too exhausting for you. Next slide, please, Sarah. And then probably one of the most important things, and it's quite a common thing that I see when people come in to see me, whether it's the NHS or in PhysioMotive, a lot of triathletes, they'll just focus on doing endurance stuff just to get the mileage done, and then they forget about strengthening the musculoskeletal system. So you're going to need strong tendons and muscles and ligaments to deal with the load that you're putting it through for the time that you're doing all the different events. So the most important one for the shoulder is something called the rotator cuff, which are 4 muscles based in your shoulder blade. It's very important. It's almost, think of it as almost the core stability muscles of the shoulder. And in terms of putting this into an event, it's going to be very important for your catch phase and your pull when you're doing your freestyle swim. So I've got one of my physios here, Sarah. If you press that the play, please. This is just one very basic rotator cuff exercise that you can do. It's pretty much just pulling a band out to the side. There's many different levels of rotator cuff strengthening exercise, but this is just a very basic one to trial. Okay, next slide, please. And then for your lower back, it's going to take a lot of load, especially when you're running, swimming, well, more so running and cycling. And core stability, I think, is the most important thing here. Now, this is quite an advanced exercise to trial. I've got one of my patients here. This guy is actually a rugby player that's coming to see me with back pain. But I use this kind of exercise for a lot of core stability rehab. So if you press play, please, Sarah. But again, there's many different levels that you can do for core stability. So this guy's on a ball, which is a very unstable environment. But you could do this exercise even just being on the floor. It's still engaging a lot of core. Okay, next slide, please. And then another common injury that I see is your knee. We need to protect the knee. So your quadricep muscles are what we call biarticular muscles, which basically means they act on 2 joints. They act on your hip, and they serve as a hip flexor. Pretty much means you're bringing your hip up in front of you, and they also extend your knee, so they straighten your knee out. So really good exercises that's going to engage these quadricep muscles are knee extensions versus resistance, some squats, some lunges, and even hip flexion. But again, it's got to be against resistance to stress the muscle to be able to grow and get stronger. Next slide, please. And then we've got the ankle, obviously very important for your running and cycling. So a very simple exercise, if you press play, please, Sarah, is just a simple calf raise. Now, again, depending on your level, how weak you are, how strong you are, there's many different variant levels of strengthening you can do. So Danny here is doing a double heel raise, but again, that could be too easy for you. So therefore, we could maybe do a single leg heel raise. And again, these set of muscles are very important to help propel yourself forward, and even when you're kicking, when you swim as well. Okay, next slide, please. And then we've got balance. So balance and coordination is very important. Again, it's basically, can we train the neurological system to put your limbs in positions without you having to look at the limb? So again, for instance, when you're running on uneven grounds, your ankle's got to work quite hard and all the muscles and ligaments around it to keep your ankle stable. So again, if you press play, please, Sarah. So again, we've got Danny here just balanced on what we call a Bosu Ball. And again, this is, I'd probably say it's an intermediate exercise because it's on an unstable surface. And there's many different ways that you can progress your coordination with an exercise like this. Okay, next slide, please, Sarah. So again, it doesn't matter what discipline you're doing, swimming, cycling, or running. Again, it's just going to take time to build your cardiovascular fitness. It's a gradual increase in time and effort. And again, I put that graph in there just as another reference to it. You just got to take your time, stress yourself a little bit more each session that you do, recover, and then again, push yourself again a little bit more with above your baseline there. But again, a lot of research shows that ligaments, muscles, etc., get stronger after about 6 to 8 weeks of gradual loading. Okay, next slide, please. And obviously having a balanced diet as well. I'm not a nutritionist, but obviously I've got a good idea of what all the muscles, tendons, ligaments are made of. Generally, a balanced diet is obviously good for weight control, etc. And depending on what level of training you're on, if you've just done a hard session, you may want to up your protein intake to help repair the muscles. If you're about to do an event or a really long session, you may want to up the carbs the night before as well to give you that energy. And also, if you've injured yourself, a good balanced diet will also help repair soft tissue, bones, whatever you've injured. Next slide, please. So the common injuries that I see in clinic, particularly with triathletes, normally there's minimal trauma is mainly overuse injuries. So with the shoulder, it's most likely to be your rotator cuff injury. Tendinopathies, I see a lot of tendinopathies with overuse injuries, and a tendinopathy is basically where the quality of the tendon and what it's made of it's not strong enough to deal with the load that you've been putting it through. It could be for many reasons, but mainly it's due to overuse. The lower back, if you get lower back pain, potentially it's most likely to do with weak core stability. If you're coming in with a knee pain, it's most likely to do with you've got weak glutes and quads not supporting the knee. And then if your ankle, if it's your ankle, it's most likely weak calf muscles or a problem with your Achilles or something, plantar fasciitis. They're the most common injuries that I see with triathletes. And the known cause of this, it could be many different reasons. Obviously, when I get you in clinic, it's my job to kind of work out what's going on. But in a nutshell, if you've got an injury, you've just got to rest, calm the injury down the best way you can. For instance, if running is highly irritable for you and you're okay getting on the bike, exchange that training session for the bike. Don't keep pushing through pain. I see that's a very common thing. People thinking that the pain will just go. So we call that relative rest. So you'd have to rest from that aggravating factor, and then we build it back up from some of the exercises that we've gone through. And obviously, you know, if you did come and see me, you build your own personal physiotherapy plan, what's unique to you. Okay, next slide, please, Sarah. So as I said, so my job, if you do come to see me in clinic, my job is to take a detailed history of your injury, perform a thorough assessment, isolating particular muscles and bones and joints, etc. I'll then give you a diagnosis about what's going on, and then if needed to, perform some hands-on treatments to try and calm some stuff down or to desensitize something if it's highly irritable. Then I'll prescribe some exercises that are individualized for your injury. Would then set clear individualized I'll give you an individualized physiotherapy plan, how we're going to get you back to achieving your goals that we would have set, and then support you back into what your goal is, what you're doing, back into whatever your goal is if there's an event coming up. So that's what my job would be. Next slide, please, Sarah. And as I said, so I've just invested in a shockwave therapy machine for the clinic. Lots of really good research for shockwave coming out over the past 10 years. Sorry, it doesn't look like it's that clear on that slide, but it is basically shockwave therapy is basically it's acoustic sound waves that go into the particular affected area of the body, the painful area. They're really, really good for treating tendinopathies. And there's a small list there. I won't read out every single one, but there's a small list there where it's got some good research that's gonna help recovery. And it basically it stimulates a fresh healing response for the body. So it's mainly if you've had a problem that's not quite going away for 3 months, and then obviously shockwave therapy can just help stimulate a natural healing response as well. Okay, next slide, please, Sarah. And that's all I've got to say, TRISudbury members. I hope you found that useful, and I'm open to any questions.
Oh, thanks, Bradie. That was awesome. So we've got. I'll let Marie ask first, if that's all right, Marie. If you can unmute yourself and ask, because I really liked your question.
Oh, right.
I know I had sent it to Bradie, so he has a bit of a heads up.
Okay, thanks. Well, yeah, it's just as I've sort of built up the mileage that I'm doing running, just sort of started to get pain in the balls of my feet, really. I'm sure it's probably quite common. But yeah, I just didn't know whether that sort of thing is just sort of down to the shoes you wear, or whether it's likely to be sort of some form of muscle weakness, but it just kind of puzzled me, because when I looked at my shoes, it seemed like all the wear was on the inside, so it seems like I overpronate, but then I've also got sort of either a medium or high arched foot as well. Okay. So it just sort of puzzled me a little bit.
Okay. Hi, Maria. Yeah, thanks for that question.
Hiya.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on exactly where the pain is, because when you say the balls of the feet, yeah. are we talking on the bony hard bits along the kind of near where the toes are?
Yeah, sort of right underneath my big toe, basically.
Okay. Yeah, it could be several things. It could be your footwear. Is it providing? They're called the metatarsal heads. Is the footwear providing adequate padding to the metatarsal heads? Is it the fact that the way you strike your foot, for instance, are you a toe striker when you're running? Are you just loading the metatarsal heads as you go on, increase your distance throughout the running? Are they getting irritated? There are little things that you can put in your shoe called metatarsalgia pads. They're like silicone gel pads that you can do to just help cushion that soft area. If you're talking about overpronating feet as well, did you say have you got some arches in at the minute?
No, like I never thought that I was overpronating before, but then when I looked at my shoes, I realised that all the wear was on the inside. But when I sort of Googled it, it sort of said that it was usually flat-footed people who overpronate, whereas I'm not flat-footed. I've looked at my footprint and I've got a medium to high sort of arch. Okay.
Yeah, it could, if foot posture is all okay from your assessment, it could be just the fact that it's the irritation to those right on those metatarsal heads. It could be potentially your running technique. That's just where you're landing, because the metatarsal heads are very close to the skin, and it is a very common thing that I do see. Have you tried ice or anything like that to try and calm them down? Try and calm any of the...
I've just sort of basically, taken a bit more of a break after running, and make sure I take at least a day between runs.
Okay. I'd probably say my first bit of advice is if you write down, or I can send it on the chat, because it's quite a mouthful to write down. They're called metatarsalgia pads. Have a look at those.
Okay.
And I think by the sounds of it, you've just got what we call metatarsalgia.
So it's just a case of having either a pad or a bit more cushioning and support in that area.
As a basic bit of advice, potentially yes, but again, I'd probably need to see how you're running, just to see actually are you loading those metatarsal heads.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a kind of gait analysis or run analysis or anything like that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, and then obviously if you're increasing your distance as well, again with the more times you're loading on your feet there, you know, if that part of the body is new to it, and then again the more you do, if there's an irritation there anyway, it would just keep getting irritated. So I definitely say you definitely need to calm it down. Try a bit of ice to try and calm down any of the inflammation there if it is metatarsalgia.
Okay.
And try to protect those metatarsal heads by, I don't know if I have written it in the chat there, by having a look at metatarsalgia pads.
Okay, brilliant.
But I'd highly recommend don't push through pain.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely don't push through pain. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. I mean, that's something that can definitely help. I mean, until, you know, maybe when places have reopened, I can then go and get a gait analysis. But, you know, in the meantime, I'm sure I can get myself some of the pads and what have you.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and try a bit of ice as well.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
So the other questions we had before was about what stretches to undertake, which I think you covered in your presentation. Also, what piece of equipment, e.g. foam rollers, massage balls, tennis balls, would you say is an essential part of the kit bag?
I'd say straight away, I see a lot of people who absolutely love all the adjuncts to help get them prepared for exercise, and some people that just, you know, they're not bothered at all by it. If you feel something is a little bit say tight, or you just want it to get it moving, then yes, but I wouldn't say it's an essential piece to have to stop you getting injured. I think the most important thing is that you do some kind of form of movement that's sport related to what you're about to do. Foam roller, I'd probably say a foam roller, but the thing is with the foam roller, it's quite a broad piece of equipment. So if, for instance, you've got a bit of a tight glute or something, then you may want to use a tennis ball to get in there. Foam roller may not get deep enough. So it's just a smaller surface area for some of the deeper muscle tightness that you may have. So really depends on the specific issue or query to. Yeah, it can depend on the body area, what to have, but I wouldn't say, it's a bit of a grey area. I wouldn't say you definitely need to have one. You know, there's many people probably on this call that have never even used one and have been injury free, but then some people probably swear by them. I'd probably say have a go. Yeah. Okay. There's this next one which I quite like, because I know some of our coaches have a opinion on this. Lots of debate about stretching. Is it better before, after, or both? And is it more beneficial, which you did mention, to do static stretching or dynamic? Okay, yeah, good question. So yeah, there's not much research on static stretching. Whether you hold it for 5 seconds, 30 seconds, that's proven not to really improve one's flexibility. But then there's been research out there that people feel more warmed up after doing stretching, static stretching. I think the most beneficial one is dynamic stretching, because you're literally preparing the body to move. You know, you could argue that what's the point in doing 15 minutes of static stretching when you're about to go on a bike where pretty much everything's moving. It's same with the swim. So I would probably advise to definitely, I would much prefer to hear people say doing dynamic stretching rather than static. just purely because of the fact that I know that for my line of work, there's more research, proven research in dynamic compared to static.
Is there any way to prevent knee stiffening up from long runs? Runs have been increased gradually over a reasonable amount of time. Person also has hypermobility.
Preventing knees from stiffening up during a run. Again, I'd want to know at what point throughout the run they're stiffening up, and why they're stiffening up. There's no, I'd probably say if it's stopping you from running, obviously stop and maybe just do some range of movement exercises, because when you're running, the knee's only moving in a certain range. So for instance, if that's the knee is capable of doing, you know, beyond 90-degree bend. So when we're running, we're probably only working between, you know, 0 and 15 degrees of knee bending. So if it's stiffening up, it may be worth just stopping if you can, and then just doing, you know, a couple of range of movement exercises just to get what we call the synovial fluid just moving around again, which is the equivalent of like WD-40 for the body. Stiffness can also come as a little bit of swelling as well. So is something swelling up within the knee because of the constant impact? So yeah, it's quite, there could be many things going on why the knee is stiffening up, but that basic advice, I'd probably just say try and regain a little bit of range of movement, from especially if you're doing a long run in that same knee range of movement.
Okay. Any tips on dealing with shin splints?
Yeah. So again, shin splints is more of a problem with the tendon as it attaches onto the bone, as it attaches onto the tibia, alongside the tibia. And again, so it's inflammation of that tendon. So again, it will be a strength problem of a muscle called tibialis anterior, which pretty much lifts your foot up. So when you run or when you walk, you don't drag your foot or trip over. So I'd probably say, again, rest from the aggravating factor, calm it down. It normally responds quite well to ice, but then again, the thing that's going to get it better is strengthening. You've just got to strengthen the muscle tibialis anterior. There's several ways of doing it. You can literally just get a band, and you can pull the band up with your foot.
Cool.
I've got a question. Great, sorry, Farley.
That's all right.
Coloured bands, because obviously they all mean something different. So is there?
Yeah.
What's the sort of range of colour of bands that you can use, and is it better to have something which is easier or stiffer?
Yeah, good question, Ben. Thank you. So it would depend on the individual. If you've got an irritable, let's just say shin splints, you're not going to want to use a really tight, strong band, because that's just going to flare you up even more so. So you'd want to use the weaker ones. Yeah. So if you're highly irritable, use a low resistance. If you're going for strength, and you can manage the reps that are being prescribed, and then that band will be individualized for you, what you can do. What you can do and what I can do, we'd probably use different bands, different levels.
Cool. Thanks, Bradie. Has anyone else got any questions specifically for Bradie? Because I've got some other questions, but I would say they're a bit of both, or coaches' questions. So has anyone got any? I can't. I'm guessing no. It's quiet and no one's waving at me.
If anyone thinks of anything else, obviously you can look me up on Facebook, Instagram, or email me. I think all my contact details are on the presentation. Feel free to just give me a call. I'm very happy to give free advice, give you a phone call, chat over the phone. I'm happy to help.
Yeah,
cool.
Farley.
Go on, Alistair. Unmute yourself. I don't have the power.
That's
I gave
right.
it away.
Hi, Bradie. Thanks for that. It's really good. I just wanted to add on from my side the bit on stretching, because I'm doing sport and exercise science at the moment, and the general consensus at the moment is to do a 5 to 10 minute gentle gradual warm up, 5 to 10 minutes or so of dynamic stretching, and then static stretching when you finish your exercise is it's sort of the most beneficial way round of doing everything. So, but as Bradie said, it depends on what is best for you. But the consensus at the moment is dynamic at the start and then static at the end.
Yeah, good point, Alistair. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's kind of preparing your body for exercise, and then some kind of a cool down as well. Would definitely help the body to recover. But yeah, it's yeah, I totally agree with you, Alistair. Thank you.
But no, thank you. Great.
Cool. So the couple of questions I've got. So coaches, feel free to unmute, chip in, or give me a wave. First one is, for the benefit of new members and those who haven't done a triathlon for a long time, please could you go through transition, what to have, what to do, do's and don'ts. And I did send this to the coaches beforehand, so you had a bit of a tight heads up. So who wants to go? Leon, you're itching to chat. I can see it in your face. You got to unmute yourself though.
Right, okay, so transition is the fourth part of our training that we don't actually do sufficient enough of. So for transition, T1, the whole transition is set up with your bike, your helmet, your race belt, your footwear, socks if you're doing middle distance or long distance, or with sprints, you don't really need socks. You just need to line your trainers with a bit of talcum powder and some Vaseline around the edges to stop that little bit of friction, and a talcum powder to dry your feet. Depends on if it's a European event or a qualifying event, they're quite strict on the rules. So there's no markings. That means there's no towels on the floor. It's just normal on the grass or whatever the surface is. If it's a local event, normally you can just put a towel down and then you can lay all your kit out on the floor. And that's about it. The rules is quite easy, straightforward. So you're coming into transition from the swimming pool. Before you touch a bike, you've got to put your helmet on. So you don your helmet and do your chin strap up. Then you've got to put on your race belt with your number facing to the back. Put your socks on and your cycling shoes, or if your cycling shoes are attached to the pedals. You then grab your bike and then you leave the transition area and you don't mount your bike until you cross the mount line. And then you mount your bike and then you do the cycle part. You complete the cycle, then you come back into transition 2. You've got to rack your bike. Remember actually where your bike is racked. That's a common mistake most people make. I've made it myself. You rack your bike and then you take your helmet off. That's the second common mistake. People generally leave their helmet on, don the trainers, and they go running with their helmet on. So helmet off, so bike on, helmet off, trainers on, turn your race belt round, and then you leave transition area and then you complete the run. And then you cross the finishing line with an immaculate time. So that's transition in a short, down and dirty. But it is one of those skills that you need to practice. Practice becomes second nature. So you know how to put the helmet on, you know how to do the chin strap up, you know what order you're going to do it in. Some people do helmet, transition, helmet and then belt, then footwear. Some people like to do belt, helmet, then footwear. So you have to practice it. That is key. And also when you come back off the bike, it's about storing your kit within your space of the handlebars and then swapping your footwear and then putting your trainers on. It's all practice, and it's something we don't do much of, but it's something we will be doing because we've discussed that already. Does that answer your question? Was that too fast?
No, that was good. Thanks, Leon. The other thing
had his hand up, Farley.
Oh, hello.
Hello. As Leon said, we are planning that we will be holding transition sessions once we're up and able to. And they will be for everyone and anyone. If you're getting too fast at it, we will throw in things like people having moved kit around, but we will also be there for total beginners to talk you through the entire thing, so that because it's a well often asked question. So every year we've done transition practice. So
what about flying mount?
Yeah, definitely flying mounts. Tom's a good one for that.
Tom versus Sweet Cheeks, go.
That's great if you get it right, but it's very painful and time consuming if you get it wrong.
Yeah, I know that from experience.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to add on socks, Leon said about not wearing socks or wearing socks. Don't do that on race day. That as you know, that as a practice one, because some people I know in the club have tried that on race days and they've just messed their feet up because they're not used to it and they're not used to the impact on their feet, not wearing socks and then going barefooted. So you have to even practice doing distance in bare feet if you want to practice and be weird and not wear socks. And not wear socks.
Ben, that's key. Don't practice anything new on race day, all right? Top tip.
I've done that
Don't
so
do
many
it.
times.
All right? Whatever you do on race day, you've rehearsed over and over again.
Yep.
And that includes no wearing of new kit on race day. Farley.
I've done it all. I've run in my helmet.
Yeah. Chris Thornton's put on the chat as well, because we're saying this for those that are watching this recording. Make sure your bike's also in the right gear. Do not have the wrong gear set up before you push out a transition, because obviously that would have quite an impact.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
a good
Chris.
one.
That goes our question the same, and that's a good one, Chris, as a reminder. Whatever location the transition is, you're going to do a walkthrough, talk through with yourself about how you're going to enter, how you're going to exit. You're going to make sure what the exit and transition and T1 going onto the bike, you're going to recognize the route of going out. So yeah, inner or outer ring, middle of the cassette or the low gears. Yeah, you just got to make sure it's set up for the right terrain. Otherwise, it'll be the wrong gear and you'll do the wiggle and you fall off or fall over. And I've done that, so I'm talking from experience.
Especially if anyone has done or does enter Walden Triathlon, because you come out of transition and it's like that for about half the course, just like that on your bike, so, and on the run actually. So, the next one was, what do you wear for a triathlon, especially for the ladies? Can be a bit of a minefield when working it out in your first event, like the pants or no pants discussion when wearing cycling shorts. But we also had that conversation about men running. So what do you wear?
So certainly.
Deer in headlights over here. Alistair, you go.
So the rule definitely from, I can't say for ladies, definitely the rule for men is no pants under bib shorts. So yeah.
Well, from experience, it's the best is the same for ladies. I've found, and from discussion with the other ladies in the club, just because of chasing issues. The question for females is putting a sports bra under your tri suit, because obviously in the tri suit you have the padding for the bikes, that's fine, but you obviously don't have the padding up top, so that is okay. I've had a lot of other female triathletes who do. I choose not to, but I don't have the problem, luckily. But I know a lot of ladies that do choose to wear and swim, and so wear a sports bra without padding so they can swim in it, so then they don't have to worry throughout the whole race. So one of those key conversations, which I think it was Sue who raised it, and you're normally, unless till you get really familiar with how we all are, you don't have that conversation. So yeah, the same with wetsuit or no wetsuit, if there's a choice.
I always take a wetsuit. It gives you buoyancy. It makes you go in the water a little bit faster, and it's more water dynamic. As in, you go through the water much quicker than you would just swimming in a tri-suit, unless you're wearing a speed suit, which is then designed to go into the water. So take the wetsuit. And personally, pants or no pants? No pants, because it will prevent friction burns. What you don't need is friction burns underneath when you're riding your bike and then going for a run. So it's as simple as that. Prevent friction burns.
And as Leon said, for the swimming side, if anyone saw Challenge Miami, Lucy Charles Barkley, considered the fastest female swimmer, she wore a speed suit. So I think there were two ladies that just had tri-suits. So
what's the speed suit?
It's a short sleeve, basically a tri-suit made out of neoprene or special swim fabric. So it's hydrophobic, hydrodynamic, makes you swim faster.
Yeah, it's an in-between between a normal swimsuit and a wetsuit.
Yeah,
it's the in-between that you have for those events.
And going back to the ladies, I know a lot of people don't have club tri-suits because they don't have the support, but those that want to, I know some of our members have to wear 2 bras, so it's whatever is up to you. Gives you the support you need.
Cool.
Yeah, and thank you, Lindsay. It says, but practicing both for the rare occasion of a non-wetsuit swim. So I think, again, it goes back to Leon's comment about practice. Nothing's new on the day. And actually, you have to have time to work out what suits you. And it's very specific as well, isn't it, for all of us, that it's very bespoke to you as an athlete.
Yeah. And one question to the coaches, just because I randomly had the conversation about swim training. So obviously, we've not had as much, or we won't have as much swim training before. I know we've got a lot of members doing Holcomb for the first time. So it'll be the first open water triathlon. So I had a question yesterday, don't know, all days are the same at the moment, so it doesn't count. They're following the Think plan. So I think a lot of people know the swim sets for the Think plan. Are they better going to a swim session or following the Think plan or doing open water or a mixture of all of it?
Leon?
Okay, so no, that's a straightforward one. So the answer is it all depends on how the type of level swimmer you are.
Okay.
If you're a confident swimmer and you've done this before, then you can pretty much go into the Don't Think training sessions, and I would start pretty much do a bit of a time appreciation. So take the race date, working backwards, see where you are when the training program is. I would then literally take a week of base before you go into build, and then continue the program on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then if you, like I do, I mix it. So I would do, during the working week, I will do pool sessions because they're close to hand. Then at weekends, I will do the endurance swim in the sea or in a lake. It depends what they're doing, which the event is. If it's a lake, train in the sea, because swimming in the sea is harder than swimming in the lake. You master the sea, you can master a lake. And that's my theory behind it. That's what I tend to do. So definitely look at the training program, work backwards, and then do a bit of base to rebuild yourselves, get back into the pool, feeling the water, getting a technique. Bear in mind, pool swimming and lake swimming is completely different because you've got to include sighting, which means you're breaking your stroke. Do the pool sessions and then do at least one endurance actually in the type of water you're going to be swimming in for that event, so you can get used to it. And that's, again, practicing with the wetsuit on, the goggles, and the little thing that's in your head. That's the name just escaped me.
Hat.
There you go. So that's what I would suggest. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And would you? And it's pretty much similar.
Just all you, isn't it?
I didn't chuck the C in. Also, so my thinking is with wetsuit, if you're only able to train in the pool, would you suggest using a pool buoy wherever possible, just to get your legs, for people that struggle getting their legs in that position? Because in my head, a wetsuit does that when you're in open water, but in a pool, you're not wearing a wetsuit, so your legs are going to be in a different position to your training.
To be honest, you can go to any pool, you can tell who the triathletes are, because they've all got pool buoys between their legs and swimming up and down like they're non-stop. So yes, but if you want to improve your own buoyancy and water dynamics, aerodynamics, then I'll say no, because you've got to then use your feet to kick to keep your legs up for buoyancy. And when you do race, take the advantages of the extra buoyancy when you're wearing your wetsuit, which means you'll go just a little bit faster. Does that make sense? So train hard to race easy.
Like it. That's our strap line for this year, yeah?
Absolutely.
Train hard, race easy. Does anyone else got any questions for the coaches this is your forum. You can ask anything within reason. I don't think anyone has. Go on. No, we all done up. Anything else?
Go on, challenge us. We want to be challenged. All three of us want to be challenged. Even the rules. I can do rules.
Just to help on for those who are starting to get a little bit nervous about the swim, I haven't quite put it out there yet, but rather than just a Saturday evening swim, we've actually just waiting to hear fully, or for them to fill it in, but we'll actually be having 3 swim sessions a week. So you should be able to get a shandy load of swimming in.
Just to fill in the gaps of what we haven't been able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? Or we've tied in for the hour?
We're doing all right.
And don't forget, we've got lovely Jessie on Monday mornings now.
That's not mornings.
That is morning. 6:15, isn't
that's
it?
late morning, Ben.
Yeah, we had this debate at coaches whether that's morning or evening still. Yeah.
Is that going to be? Is it going to be recorded as well?
Not for the first couple, until Jessie gets comfortable with it all, and then we may well do. But
you just have to get up, Chris. You can have a nap later in the day. Just get up. You'll be fine.
I am up. I'm walking the dogs. I then go back to bed.
Bradie mentioned also about activations or warm-ups. On the YouTube channel that we've started putting together, there are quite a few different activations that people can do, because different people have different ailments or injuries that they need to work on before warming up. So things like somebody who's got sore knees, or glutes or hamstrings or calf, there are different sort of activations that you can do beforehand. So do check out the YouTube channel, not shameless plug, but there are little videos on there about people's different activations which they do, because I don't know, more of a question for everybody. When you go running, do you warm up before you start?
not on a long one.
Not on a long one, but I think that's one of the things. On a bike ride, do you warm up?
No, not on a long one.
Oh, you should do.
Thank you very much, Bradie.
I was going to say, yeah, no, you do. You get on the bike, you just warm your legs up for the first 15 or the first few miles, and then you gradually get into it, and then you put the hammer down.
Yeah.
It depends who you go out with.
What's the warm up?
Exactly,
I don't want to be seeing anyone in my clinic and saying, "I told you so."
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that writes off all the club members.
Yeah, but if you're running a 5K or a 10K, you should be looking at least 1 or 2K warm up on those different before you're going at pace at those options. So just an example, so if you're going out for a longer run and you're looking at a certain pace, doesn't matter what it is, you should be looking at a mile to begin with if you're not doing activations where you're not going at that pace. Which I can see a lot of faces going.
Agreed.
You see, no one does.
Totally agree.
Nobody, but that's one of the things about injuries for running as well, is that we've got to warm the body up, and we've also got to then let the body cool down afterwards.
She does it. She's just commented, run yes, bike no. So there you go. Well done, Poots. Half a star.
Yeah.
We're going to have some words.
No, but I think it's really important, because that's the fatigue bit that we look after the muscles, they look after us. So
I mean, another thing that I find is I used to suffer with injuries when running, particularly tight calves, etc. And what I found is a good nutritional diet, which is one of the things that helps. But also what I started to do is when I buy trainers, I normally buy 2 or 3 pairs of the same. And then what I do is I rotate the trainers when I run, just to give the trainers time to recover, because they need to recover to go back to reshape. If you think about, I don't know how many tons that go down per foot when we run, but it's a lot. And those trainers need time to recover. So that's what I generally do. And I haven't had an injury since, touch wood, that I'll remain injury free. But rotating your trainers is another top tip, if you can.
I think
Leon?
we've had quite a lot of chat about choosing trainers as well, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying to Marie about gait analysis. So when I obviously I'm not an expert or podiatrist by any sense of the imagination, but when I went from, I'd never run, I couldn't run a bath, I get out of breath running a bath, and I got into London, I went for a proper gait analysis, and they stuck with Brooks adrenaline, and I've tried different ones because being a girl, I didn't like the colour one season, tried different ones, I got blisters, I got pains, so I've religiously for the last 8 years stuck, and I now do exactly the same. I have 2 or 3 pairs on rotation of Brooks adrenaline, same size, everything else, and yeah, same, touch wood, I've not had, but I stuck to that. Well, I'm probably lucky I haven't changed, but I would then have another gait analysis as well from a proper shoe place, which it was Berry and they've gone. So
yeah, I think once the shops reopen, I will definitely go and do that. I've been wearing like the Brooks Ghost ones, which I think they're good, but I think maybe they've just gotten worn out, and
yeah,
you know, sorry.
Ben,
gait analysis.
I'm kind of Ben. What's the mileage on trainers these days? 300, 400 miles.
Depends on the shoe. Average shoes can give you 400 miles, but if you buy like the posh Nike ones, the Aerofly, they're 200. So the carbon ones, the carbon ones only last 200 miles, they suggest. But generally for me, I'm at 400. I'm looking to phase a shoe out. But I'm a bit sad. I have about 5 different running shoes. So different types. So from trail shoes to flats, more tempo trainers. So there's not much to them. So I'll use a different shoe for doing faster stuff compared to plodding miles to trail miles. And I will just rotate them through so my feet aren't having to get used to a shoe really quickly. So it goes back to what Leon said, that my feet are getting used to running in these shoes. And I used to have Achilles tendinopathy sort of problems, but having gone into this sort of pattern, I don't have any problems with my Achilles, and I do a lot of calf work anyway. So it works the other way around. Sorry, Bradie, you were going to say something earlier.
Yeah, question to kind of Ben and Leon in that, actually, just on the back end of what you just said. So maybe go to Leon. So you mentioned that you had calf injuries before, and one of the things you did was change your shoes. Was there a rehab? Was there a rehabilitation phase to your injury getting better?
Yeah, well, I had to have surgery on my foot. What they found is that I had an extra bone in my foot, which then would have flare out with the tendons underneath the big toe running back to the Achilles heel. That used to flare up, which means it was really painful to run. I could run, but I couldn't go really fast. So it slowed me down. So surgery followed by 6 weeks of rehab, and then another 6 months of building strength up again. Yeah, and that's at Colchester as well.
Before surgery, did you have physiotherapy at all, trying to get to the bottom of it? Or was it straight to surgery?
No. I went through about 4 months of trying different insoles, different types of trainers, different exercises. In fact, our chairman was looking after me in that area. And then with the surgery was the last option. But again, with the consultant, I had to have a strong debate about why I wanted to have the surgery, because he thought his answer was, well, you can walk, you can run, you don't actually need the surgery. Yeah. But actually, my running's not as fast as I want to be. Yeah. So I kind of won the argument. I had surgery, but it cost me like 8 months.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So same question to you, Ben. You said you had Achilles problems. What kind of rehab did you do?
Mine's football based. So from 20 odd years playing football, had left kicking foot. So literally I just developed bad habits from not stretching through football. So I saw physio for a couple of years, different sort of methods. So from paid physio to free physio, but moved over to a load bearing, strengthening calf work. That seemed to resolve it. But the shoes stuff was just because I was putting pressure. And I think one of the sports physios I saw said, have you thought about regulating your shoes? Because he said you've got to build strength, and by wearing the same pair of shoes or over supported shoes, cushioned shoes, you're not building strength. So they said, if anything, your shoes are making your calf stuff worse. So they suggested possibly adapting trainers, changing trainers, more neutral trainers. So I ran in them for a little while, but also did a lot of calf work and ankle balance stuff on both, and load bearing on the calf.
Good, yeah. I think it's interesting the fact that you've both talked about intrinsic factors and also extrinsic factors that can also influence injuries. So yeah, that's interesting. Thank you.
Paul has asked, are the quality of socks just as important as the trainers?
Leon doesn't wear socks. It's blisters and getting your feet used to the impact. So if you're not used to wearing socks, then your feet are most probably used to wearing and wear and tear on the trainers. If you have soft feet and you've always wore plush socks, then going from no socks to no socks, you're going to get blisters. So I think it's about durability of your feet. But I like posh socks.
Yeah, I have cheap socks and they're all right.
Having done a few ultras and my feet looking like a whole blister, at the back, the end of it, the socks were the essential part, because my feet literally were just one huge blister when I had bad socks. But that's doing 40 something miles, so that's my own fault.
Yeah.
That's a warm up. What are you on about?
Austin's asked top tips for food you can take on a bike ride.
Oh, okay. Definition of bike ride. Are we talking 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hours? What are we talking about?
Stick your hand up, Austin.
Asking next, just because it means so much. If it's going for an hour on a bike ride, you don't need anything because you should be fueled and hydrated for an hour's bike ride.
I'm talking sort of 3 to 4 or 5 hours, something like that.
Okay,
so long ride.
So for an endurance ride, so clearly starting off before the ride, you're having breakfast and having coffee. So clearly oats were the best thing to have because it's slow releasing energy for your systems. And coffee just for the caffeine kick. Then 40 minutes in a ride. If you're happy with gels, do you like gels?
Not really. I find them hard to digest. I just find that they literally fill your mouth and, and I can't get used to it.
It does take a while, but if you train your gut to take gels is probably about one of the most quick energy releases there is for your systems. Because if you take solids on a bike, you're going to have to use the fluids in your body to break that food down into a liquid so it goes into your bloodstream to fuel your energy systems. So what you want is something that you can digest quickly, because you don't want to be chewing on a bike, and then that energy to be released as quickly as possible into your body so you can use it to turn the pedals. So there's lots of brands out there, and I won't name any particularly, but there's lots to try. But if you're thinking about just doing a middle distance, so you would need about 3 hours worth of food on the bike. So you're talking 9 gels is what you would normally take. I would suggest. That's what they would recommend as well. And also that you would need to consider your hydration. And all that comes down to if you're a heavy sweater or not. If you're a heavy sweater, then you will probably need to take like electrolytes. But most gels these days contain electrolytes. So you will just need to take water. But then again, you can figure that out by doing a sweat test. Work out how much sweat you lose over an hour. Then you can work out how much fluid you need to take in during a workout, particularly an endurance ride. On average, it's about 650 milliliters. One bottle is what you would need to consume for that type of ride. Well, for an hour on the bike. So if you're going out for 4 hours, you're going to have to stop and get water somewhere. Otherwise, you're going to get dehydrated and then you're going to get cramped. And that's just going from my experience. But food, the best food, it comes down to you. What works for me probably won't work for you. I can't do solids on a bike. It just makes me gag. So I've trained to use gels. And if you look at most of the events, gels is what they will feed you anyway on the feeding stations. So it's something that you would have to get, or you would have to have a special needs bag for that type of event so you can actually grab what you need.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just, like you say, I spend most of my time either trying to swallow something, which I find so difficult, or if not, dropping it on the road. And if I don't have something to eat, then 2 hours into a bike ride, if I'm pushing hard, I completely stop. I just find that I run out of energy.
So, and what I normally, I don't carry the gels in the little sets. I normally cut them, open them up and put them in a bottle.
Oh, right, okay.
And then, so for example, Saturday I went out for a 3.5-hour bike ride. I literally had 1 bottle of all my gels that I need, 9 gels. And then I had 2 bottles, one on the back on my saddle and one on my tri bars. So from the 40-minute marker, I was eating, and then every 20 minutes after that, I was drinking something all the way through, and my energy levels didn't drop. But it takes time, and it does take practice. Training your gut is what you will hear and what you will read in any decent triathlon training book. It's all about training the gut to accept it. But as I said, some people prefer solids. I can't do solids personally. The last time I did that, I just gagged. So it wasn't, it was a waste of energy and a waste of fluid. So training the gut is key here. Bradley, you're got probably a little bit more of this on than I have.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is training to you as an individual. Like yourself, I would take gels on as well for that kind of quick and slow release as you go through. But I think, yeah, again, the most important thing is just staying hydrated as well to avoid, like you've already said, cramps and kind of dehydration. So no, yeah, I think you said it nicely. Totally agree.
The other one I was going to say on gels is practice, because there's one I've got at the moment, which is a double espresso gel, and it is gorgeous. I could just drink it and eat it any time of the day, but it's quite thick. So you can have some which are the high five ones, which are quite syrupy and wet.
Aqua gels.
Others which are quite thick. So you really have to work out between all the different types of gels, which ones you like flavor of. Like you said about sweat, some of them have high salt content. So I found some which are salted caramel, because I realized that I needed the salt side of the gel. So it is just looking through, and you can go onto certain sites and just search gels, and you could find 200 gels quite easily. But it is just practice, or ask people in the group, what do you use as a gel? And then I think it's just ask different people what they can stomach and what they like flavor.
Then do a swap shop.
Yeah, I've just ordered 30 of these ones. You can borrow one of these double espressos if they last.
If you really want it, there's a very popular triathlon magazine out there that you could look in, and and this month there's actually a review on gels.
Yep, there is. I'll photograph the page.
It's also worth just checking what they'll be using at the events you're doing.
Yeah.
So work with, if you're doing outlaw, what do outlaw use? Practice with those so you're ready for race day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
The other thing, for if you are a heavy sweater, if you don't want to be too concerned about salt and things, you can just do the simple way and put half a teaspoon of salt into your normal bottle of hydration, just to keep the salt flowing as well.
Yep.
Yeah, good point.
Last thing to add on that as well, so most of these gels above contain electrolytes, which are very important for nerve conduction, to help keep muscles contracting throughout as well. So many benefits.
So I think the answer there is gels.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Perfect.
Although I have picked Marmite and toast, so whatever works. Oh, cool. Thanks everybody. I think we've gone through all the questions. So if anyone hasn't got anything else, Bradie, are you all right if I share your presentation into the Facebook group so Leon can see it?
Please do.
A bit of Facebook.
No worries. Thank you.
So I share that with everyone who's missed it, and as Ben said, we've recorded it as well, so we'll share it. So if anyone wants to look back on it as well, see all our faces, watch it in your spare time. So, but thanks everyone for coming. That was really, really worthwhile. I'd be interested in people's feedback as well. So drop me a message and let me know, because I think having people like Bradie on is really helpful, and having Q&As to the coaches. I think once people get a bit used to it, it could, I think we need to challenge them more. So yeah, have some thoughts, and maybe we'll do another one to ask some more questions. So, but thanks everyone for coming, and we will see you soon because sessions will start. Yay!
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Thanks, Bradie, for your time.
Thanks for your time, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks all.